I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here today. The band will be playing as the color guard comes in. I would like everyone to now stand as you've done and place your right hands over your hearts as the color guard enters our gymnasium. As you do this, I'd like you to turn and face the door and follow the flag as it comes to the stage. Afterwards, please remain standing. I will give you further direction when it's time to sit. With that, I would like to now welcome the Joint American Legion and VFW Color Guard to enter the gym.
Color Guard, yes, left, forward, hard, forward, hard.
Please join the Century Band, Choir, and Orchestra in the Star-Spangled Banner. I would like to ask that everybody remain standing and as we honor our nation in the Pledge of Allegiance. Afterwards, again, remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to recognize this ceremony as a group expression of our deep appreciation to our veterans who are present here today and for all veterans everywhere. I think it would be a serious mistake to not hold this day in high importance, because it certainly is a day of remembrance of the lives lost and sacrifices made by the fraternity of men and women who serve and have served our country. The sacrifices they have made are real and significant. As principal, there are times when my job responsibilities cause me to leave before my family is awake and come home after they're asleep. And at times, this can even happen several days in a row. During those days, the rest of my family has to pick up the extra work and find ways to stay connected when I'm not there. However, when compared to the months and years that our women and men in the military are doing their jobs, important jobs of protecting our freedom around the globe and keep them away from their family, my story is small and insignificant. The time these families are away from each other is difficult, and the expenses paid by our veterans while through their service are too often the greatest that a person can give. For that, I humbly offer my appreciation and deep admiration. All of us have benefited from the efforts, the victories, and the losses of our veterans. We truly appreciate them for what they have given our country. Also, wanting to share his own sentiments of gratefulness is our very own Stephen Winnick. Stephen is a 9th grader here at Century and someone who I've gotten to know well. Stephen's message provides a background on the history behind Veterans Day, as well as some thoughts on how important our veterans are to each of us. Stephen, the podium is yours.
Everyone in this room knows that today is Veterans Day, but what does that truly mean, and why is it so important to recognize our veterans? First, let me share with you a brief history of this special day. Veterans Day was first unofficially observed as Armistice Day on November 11, 1919. Exactly 1 year earlier, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, an armistice, or peace treaty, was signed between the Allied nations and Germany to end the fighting of World War I. Armistice Day was first proclaimed by President Woodrow Wilson, who said that, to us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us, and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the councils of the nations. On May 13, 1938, Armistice Day was officially made a legal holiday dedicated to the cause of world peace and to honor the veterans of World War I. It wasn't until June 1, 1954, after both World War II and the Korean War, that Armistice Day was changed to Veterans Day, to honor U.S. veterans of all wars. Just as in the past, we continue to depend on our soldiers to risk their lives every day to ensure our country's safety and to protect our freedoms. If it wasn't for the sacrifices of these brave men and women, we wouldn't have the seemingly basic freedoms to live where we want or to choose what religion we follow. As recently as the election on Tuesday, we, as Americans, have the freedom to voice our own opinions and make decisions about how our nation is run, which is something that the vast majority of people in the world don't have. Most importantly, thanks to the sacrifices of our veterans, we have the freedom to make our own choices and live our lives exactly how we want to live them. Take a moment and imagine what kind of country ours would be without the freedoms protected and preserved by our veterans. Would it be like North Korea, where the people are intimidated into blindly following the words of their leader? Would it be like Iraq and Syria, where we would never know if we would live to see another day? We should all realize how fortunate we are to be given the opportunity to live here in the United States, in a country that is founded on freedom and liberty, and the fact that our veterans have given everything to protect and preserve that. Although Veterans Day comes only once a year, we need to respect and honor all of those who served our country so well at every chance that we can. Most of us in this room will never be able to comprehend the true sacrifices that these brave men and women have made to honor their country. They did this not for fame and glory, for money, or for power. They did it because it was right. Many of those soldiers died, many more were wounded, and yet even more bear the unseen scars of the battles they faced. I am so proud to live in the United States of America and so grateful for those who have served in our armed forces. We owe them all much more than words can describe. May God bless those who have served our country in the past, those who are serving us today, and those who will serve in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. At Century, we benefit and are honored to have several veterans on staff. Each of these individuals have served lengths of time in our U.S. Army. I would like to thank our technology support specialist, Mr. Larson, our new industrial technology teacher, Mr. Daniels, and one of our long-standing 9th grade social studies teachers, Mr. Meyer, for their service to our country. Additionally, we know that Forest Lake takes great pride in the number of high school graduates who go on to serve in one of our many military branches. We honor these individuals as a community for the gift of freedom we enjoy each day. One of these graduates, Staff Sergeant Ben Montez, who is a student in the Forest Lake Schools, is here to share some thoughts. Help me welcome Ben to the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished visitors, and United States veterans, thank you for being here today to pay tribute to America's heroes. Veterans Day offers the American people an opportunity to reflect on and celebrate the achievements, courage, and dedication of those who have and continue to selflessly sacrifice for the greater good of our country. Our veterans are ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways to serve a cause greater than themselves. They did so not because they loved to fight, desired to leave their loved ones, or sought the title of hero, but because they loved what our nation stands for and felt called to give back to the nation that has given them so much. Today, Americans pause to honor these service members. When our country has fallen under attack, these brave men and women of our armed forces have dutifully risen to defend with courage, pride, and determination. Today and every Veterans Day, we acknowledge our debt of gratitude to the individuals whose dedication to duty and integrity have kept this nation whole. The soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen of the United States of America demonstrate the courage to sacrifice individual safety and precious time with their loved ones for the common good of our society. The meaning of Veterans Day has evolved since its inception, but the origin of this day dates back to World War I. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the year 1918, an armistice went into effect. The armistice was an agreement between allied nations and Germany to cease fighting. It is regarded as the official end of the war to end all wars. 1 year later, President Woodrow Wilson declared November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day, to proudly revere the heroism of those who gave their lives in service to our country, and to celebrate the national victory that the veterans of World War I achieved. That year, the day was observed with parades and public gatherings. A brief suspension of business was customarily observed, beginning at precisely 11 a.m. In 1926, Armistice Day became a national holiday, and the people of the United States were invited to observe the day with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations in their communities. In 1954, Armistice Day was renamed as Veterans Day. This title change allowed for the importance of recognizing veterans of all wars, at the time to include those veterans of World War II and the Korean War. From 1971 to 1977, Veterans Day was celebrated on a Monday, like Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, and Columbus Day. The following year, it was returned to the annual observance on its original date. Today, we continue to observe Veterans Day on November 11th to preserve the historical significance of the date and to focus reverence on the important purpose of Veterans Day. Today is a day to celebrate and to honor American veterans for their patriotism, love of country, and great sacrifice in exchange for the great victories and liberty we have accomplished as a country. The general perspective towards veterans has varied over the course of our history. Following World War I and II, veterans were regarded as American heroes. greeted home with tremendous celebration and gratitude. When our service members returned from Korea, the country did not respond with such adoration. Korean War veterans were, in large part, ignored after their initial return. The country's general indifference is what led the Korean War to be dubbed the Forgotten War. Vietnam War veterans returned to adversity and a divided country in protest. Citizens directed their unrest not only toward the war itself, but toward the service members who had just returned from fighting it. Fortunately, the perception of who veterans are has progressed over time, and veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have returned home to a country that is able to separate politics from participants. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the veterans here with us today. If you are able, please stand so that we may thank you for your service. Veterans, please. Please join me in a round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your service to our country. Thank you for our sacrifice, selfless service, and immense strength. We are grateful that you have courageously risen to our defense. Thank you for valiantly preserving our heritage of liberty and for dedicating your life to promoting enduring peace. Please take your seats. Many of you may not have been aware of the veterans surrounding you today. Though Minnesota is not a home to an active duty installation, we have nearly 13,000 citizen soldiers in our Minnesota Air and Army National Guard. Minnesota is also home to more than 5,000 reserve members and 500 active duty members from all 5 branches of the armed forces. We are a proud state with many members currently serving. And the Department of Veterans Affairs reports that we have more than 360,000 veterans living in communities throughout our state. They represent about 6.5% of the population here in Minnesota. Since 2001, we have deployed more than 16,666 National Guardsmen from Minnesota. In 2016 alone, 129 Minnesota National Guardsmen were called to serve our nation on overseas deployments in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and New Dawn. We have also had service members participate in exercises around the globe, from the National Training Center in California to Estonia, Croatia, Norway, and more. When speaking of supporting veterans and their families, President Barack Obama shared these words: "Everybody can do something. Every American, every business, every profession, every school, every community, every state. All of us as one American team. That's how we will truly honor our veterans. That's how we will say thank you. That's how we will uphold the sacred trust with all who have served in our name." Citizens of the United States enjoy the freedoms preserved by our American Constitution because of those who represent the 1% of our national population by wearing the uniform and serving our nation to preserve those freedoms. As we walk away from our time together, I encourage you to reflect on how the actions of veterans have shaped the nation we live in today and your daily life. Take a moment to thank a veteran in your community for his or her sacrifice and service. Consider volunteering your time or talent to take care of those who have taken care of us. President John F. Kennedy once said, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget the highest appreciation is not to utter the words, but to live by them." Only 1% of Americans may be fighting our wars, but 100% of Americans undeniably reap the benefits of their service. Again, thank you for having me here today. Thank you for celebrating our nation's veterans, and thank you for putting your gratitude into action. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America. Thank you.
I now ask everyone to stand and remain in silence, placing your right hand over your heart as we observe a moment of silence while taps is played.
Forward, arms. Retrieve colors. Recover. Left, pace. Column left, hard.
That concludes our ceremony. I want to thank everyone for their reverence and the way that they handled themselves during that event. 7th grade, if you could follow the direction of your teachers out the same way that you came and head to your 3rd hour class. 8th grade, if you could do the same, follow the direction of your teachers and head to your 3rd hour class.